Alright guys, welcome back to Strong Successful Male. So for today, I'm going to go over an article titled, "For Years, Single Women Complain There Are No Good Men to Marry. New Data Suggests They're Right." And this article goes into the whole thing, guys, about how basically because, so many women in this day and age are now not only going to college, but seeking master's degrees and higher education and all that. And they're definitely doing very well for themselves. You can't deny that. Higher positions and jobs and companies and all that. As always, women are always going to complain. But the complaint now is, and has been going on for some time, obviously there aren't enough good men to settle down with. And the definition of good men are always going to be men that are, at the very least, matching them in terms of education, job status, earning potential, or what they're making, and all that, okay? And as more and more women have been getting advanced degrees, increasing their education, improving themselves, and high-paying jobs, high-status jobs, obviously there's only so many jobs to go around, and not many men do that. And men have their different reasons for that, but lots of guys also do very well for themselves, and they don't have a whole lot of education, Or maybe, let's say they got a bachelor's degree. We have a lot of women getting master's degrees, okay? But that guy would be seen as not having enough education for them. Or let's just say that a guy, he got a trade in something. He has a blue-collar job, but he does very well for himself, makes good money, and has zero debt, zero student loans. Well, to your average woman in this day and age, especially in this right now, in her 20s and 30s, that guy will be less desirable than a guy that probably makes the same amount of money but has more education, has what's considered to be a higher status job, but has $100,000 in debt. It's insane. But that guy is more desirable, more suitable for them than the blue-collar guy that probably makes just as much as the other guy but doesn't have all that debt weighing him down. Debt that will weigh him down for 20 years. But that's what I'm talking about, guys. That's what they're saying about there's not good enough guys out there. And as I said before, guys, in videos before, because this subject keeps coming back over and over again, women always want a guy they can look up to. Someone that they see as higher status than them. And it doesn't just magically happen when they get out of college and get into their 20s and their prime. This starts when they're little girls. Think about back to when you were a kid in elementary school. All the girls, or especially junior high, when girls and boys started being attracted to each other because puberty and hormones were kicking in. The girls always went for the guys that were older. You ever notice that? Or remember that if you're looking back, guys? Or the guys that played sports, soccer, football, basketball, you name it. The guys with status, the guys in the spotlight. You could have a perfectly cool guy that's good looking, in shape, and all that, but he's not going to compare to the guy that's on the football team or the soccer team. Even if that guy is ugly as hell, or maybe overweight, or just a jackass, or dumb as shit. And we've known guys like that, How many times when you were in high school did you see girls going for a guy that, even though he was a fat slob and ugly and no personality, but because he hung out with the in crowd, the girls went for that guy because he had that status. So if you don't have, in their view, status, you're not considered to be desirable. And so right now, again, we have so many guys out there that simply, they either don't finish school or they seek a trade or whatever it happens to be, but they're not considered to be, basically a good man. It's crazy, A lot of women wouldn't choose me because I never graduated college. I started my first business when I was barely 22 years old, okay? And I have no regrets. I'm glad I did it because I did very well for myself. But this is what I'm talking about. So this whole article goes into all this bullshit. And also this, guys, we all know darn well that also a lot of women are going to complain about this because guess what? They're now in their 30s and 40s. This is the prime complaining time, which we're getting this stuff from. And guess what? It isn't just the fact there aren't any guys available, is that guys don't want them. Because more and more guys are waking up to how things are in this day and age, especially in the West with female nature. And it isn't just here in the United States. This is all around the world. From the emails I get from guys telling me how they appreciate my work or my work has helped them out, or guys that comment. So guys aren't settling down anymore because they realize they don't want to be stuck with some of these harpies. All right? And so it's easier to complain and blame us and say we're not good enough when the fact is they're the ones aren't good enough. It's, generally speaking, many women in general that how things have gone, that guys just have zero interest, not in just marriage anymore, but even relationships. So anyway, guys, I've gone on a bit. I'm going to go into this article now. It's important to talk about this stuff to reinforce that knowledge because it's easy to forget some of that. So, starts out saying, what's behind the current decline in marriage? New research suggests that single women's frequent complaint is actually true. There just aren't enough men worth marrying. At least not if single women require a husband whose education level and income matches or surpasses theirs. What'd I tell you? In a fascinating blog post at the Psychology Today website, social psychologist Teresa Donato, PhD, details new research that seeks to explain the phenomenon of declining marriage. In the 1950s, about 70% of Americans were married, compared with about 50% as of last year. I think this article is a little older, guys. I mean, not crazy old, but maybe a couple years. I have to double check on that, but still very relevant. This statistic is especially striking when you consider that same-sex marriage is now legal throughout the United States, removing a barrier to marriage for millions of people who would not have chosen to marry someone of the opposite sex. During the same period, Donato notes the percentage of people who say they've never been married has risen by 10%. That number is going to get higher and higher, guys, because guys are waking up to realize it's just not worth it. You know, they've seen just how things are now, you know, how women behave and that sense of entitlement. And of course, you get married and guess what? Because of a no-fault divorce, like that, woman could decide that she wasn't be married anymore. She could end it. And next thing you know, she's going to get the house, the kids if you have any, the dog, the cat, you know, half the money, probably part of the guy's pension or whatever happens to be, future earnings. Who the hell knows? Alimony. Just like that. So why would any guy who understands this put himself in a position, you know, love? Get the fuck out of here. I mean, a lot of guys, you got to understand that women aren't going to truly be able to love you. It just doesn't work that way. A guy can love a woman and almost unconditionally as long as she doesn't get fat and she takes care of herself and she isn't a bitch. But generally speaking, he'll love her unconditionally. Women don't work that way. That love is on the basis that your ass has a job and you can provide and you got status and you got all these things. And even then, that may not matter. Okay? So if you guys need someone to love you so you can feel whole in this world, get a dog. Get a cat, but don't just marry someone and get into a legally binding thing that half your shit or more is gone when she just feels like it. It's not worth it, guys. And by the way, in this day and age, an article came out yesterday about Canada, how this guy was in a relationship with a woman for years. They weren't married, no kids, they didn't live together, no joint assets, and still the court awarded this guy was rich, $50,000 a month for 10 years from this guy. It's insane. Now, that's Canada, but still, that could happen here. You just never know. So now guys aren't going to even want to get in relationships anymore with these broads. And now women are going to complain that there's no guys out there. And they'll just insult us instead of saying, hey, maybe it's us. Maybe it's our actions that have turned men off. Goes on. To find out why marriage is on the decline, researchers Daniel Lichter, Joseph Price, and Jeffrey Swigert used Census Bureau data to compare the husbands of married women with single men, currently available on the dating market. They were, in essence, testing the validity of a frequently heard complaint from single women that all the good men are already taken. They began by comparing single women with married women of similar ages, demographics, and education levels. They look at the husbands of these married women to try to determine the characteristics that might make a man marriageable in single women's eyes. Then they compare these theoretical husbands with the single men that the women in their study might meet. Less well-educated, more likely to be unemployed. That's bullshit. Okay? Yes, if a person has different degrees and skill sets, it will be easier for him to obviously not only get a job or have a good career, but a better one. But that doesn't mean because you don't have those, you're not going to have a job. There's plenty of guys out there that, guess what? They have a really good trade and a really good skill, and guess what? There's always a demand for their services. Isn't that interesting? There's a lot of blue-collar jobs that are damn good paying jobs. These guys make very good money, good livelihoods, and there's always going to be a demand for their services. When a guy that has a master's degree in marketing, guess what? There's plenty of guys out there just like that, or whatever it happens to be. Now, don't get me wrong, that's certainly a very useful skill for business, but still, compared to a guy that can always fix cars, there's always going to be demand for that. Or fix the goddamn air conditioner, an air conditioner repairman. Anybody lives anywhere with a hot summer knows they're always in demand. You see what I'm talking about here? There's always demand for a lot of blue-collar jobs. And, of course, guys that didn't graduate school but started their own businesses, but they don't count them. It's ridiculous. But status is everything, guys. I'm telling you that now. Women always want a guy, ideally, that does better than them, that they can look up to, okay? Because that makes them look better. And, of course, the money. Now, maybe not the masculine women, the feminist masculine women. They want a guy they can look down at to make them feel better about themselves. But generally speaking, most women are not like that, even though they may get sucked into that feminist bullshit they're trying to peddle. Goes on, their findings can only be described as depressing. The available single men turn out to be less likely to have a job than the husbands single women are presumably seeking. Theoretically, husbands had a 90% chance of being employed, whereas only 70% of available men were. Meaning, guys that are single but don't have the higher degrees and all that the women want in this day and age. They were less likely to have a college degree, and the husbands single women were presumably hoping to find had a 58% higher income than that of actual available men. Okay, they may have a higher income, but how much debt do they have? Nobody ever wants to talk about that, okay? That's great that somebody can make 150 grand a year. Okay, cool. But if they got 200 grand in fucking debt that they're going to be paying off for 20 some years, if not more, versus a guy that makes 125 or 100 and he's got no debt, nothing holding him back. Seriously, but nobody looks at that. It's all about status. It's all about what's on the outside. When the researchers analyzed the data further, matching single women's presumed desired qualities in a spouse against real available single men, they found even more disheartening news. Older women would have an especially hard time finding an acceptable mate. Well, duh, because older women are past their prime in terms of the looks and body type department. That doesn't mean you can't have a woman that's in the 30s and 40s, shit, sometimes 50s, that looks damn good for her age. You know, if a woman really takes care of herself, if she eats well, she doesn't smoke, she doesn't drink much, doesn't do drugs, obviously does things good for her skin, keeps her hair long and healthy, paints her nails, dresses sexy, not wearing the big-ass mom jeans and shit like that. She goes to the gym regularly and does cardio, does resistance exercise. Believe me, I'm a gym rat. I'm there all the fucking time. Okay, when I'm not doing videos and I'm not training people in my personal training business, I'm at the gym. I'm going there in a few minutes. It's right over there. Okay? These women, I see them all the time. They look damn good. But that doesn't mean they're at the prime that they were when they were younger. Okay? So, of course, it's going to be harder for them. This is why women gotta, if they want to get the right kind of guy or get a guy, decent guy, they got to do it in their 20s. Not just waiting around for that small percentage of guys that they think they can get. All right? Or spending all their 20s riding the carousel or being the career woman and then thinking that, oh, I'll have no problem when I get older getting that same guy. Doesn't work that way, but a lot of women don't understand that. And where does that attitude come from? Where does that mentality come from? It comes from a bunch of things. It comes from the you-know-what movement. I said the F word once already. I'm not going to do it too much. The you-know-what movement that basically has convinced women that basically they deserve everything and are worth everything, and make a lot of women that are, I would say, 5s in the looks department think they're 9s and 10s, and you know I'm right about this. That's one area. Classic marketing like L'Oreal's "Because You're Worth It," which, by the way, was a genius advertising slogan, I must say. Give them credit. But still, that mentality. And of course, last but not least, guys that have been validating them their whole lives. Guys that put women on a pedestal, that are kissing their ass, treating them like the queen. Especially, even just not bad looking women have guys kissing their ass. validating wherever they go. Social media and dating apps where guys are always liking their pictures, commenting on their pictures. That builds egos, guys. Don't do that. I've said it before in other videos, and I'm going to say it until my dying breath. Don't validate women. It only builds up their egos. Okay? And for those of you guys who do dating and relationships, you know what I'm talking about. It's an absolute accurate thing. Don't do that. It makes it worse. It kills you. It makes it worse. So, and it's just simply just liking a picture, commenting on it, Instagram, Facebook, whatever you choose. Also the dating apps. Your average good-looking woman gets flooded with emails and all that from guys every single day. You can see how the egos get built up. If guys just would do their profile on different dating sites and just hung back and let the women come to them, which they do, trust me, that's less emails they're getting, and their egos aren't being built up enough. The validation isn't coming in as much. But you got to have a lot of guys do that. But at the end of the day, you're always going to have a never-ending supply of blue pill beta guys that don't get this and have been conditioned to kiss women's asses. But if I can help some of you guys understand this and you don't do this, that will help things a little bit. But don't do that. That just makes it worse. All right. It's Saturday morning. I'm in the mood to talk, so obviously I'm rambling here. But, some of you guys like that. Some of you guys hate it. But I'm in that particular talkative mood today. All right, goes on here. Talks about older women having a hard time finding guys. Also says the same is true for minority women, especially if they are African American, and for highly educated women. And when the researchers added in geography, comparing a woman's theoretical desirable husband to the pool of available men in her region, the chances of finding a mate got even worse. Or at least of finding an acceptable mate. We don't actually know whether American women are holding out for the more likely to be employed, better educated, higher earning men that are available on the dating market today. That's exactly what's going on. They're always holding out for something better. Now, don't get me wrong. I can't blame anybody, both men and women, for obviously wanting the best for themselves. But there's also, you got to be realistic here. And reality, common sense, and logic doesn't exactly work well with the female's emotional brain. Doesn't work that way, okay? Guys are much more logic-based, and we can, connect the dots to what's reality. It doesn't really work that way with most women. I didn't say all women, but I said most women. Okay, they wait around for that top percentage of guys, and if you got a woman that's in her prime in her 20s and she's a 9 or a 10 in the looks and body type department, where beauty is in the eye of the beholder, but let's be honest here, most guys can agree if they see a woman and she's a 9 or a 10 in the looks and body type department. Okay, those women, they can get the small percentage of the top guys. They can get the guys that are obviously very wealthy, have the resources, the assets, the status, and everything. But most women are not like that, okay? And even then, the 9s and 10s, if they can easily attract millionaires, shit, some of them are going to say, hey, I want to attract a billionaire. I'm not kidding. So, but most women are not 9s and 10s, so they got to be realistic on what they can get. But a lot of these women that are 5s, 6s, and 7s, they think they're 9s and 10s. And where does that come from? All the attention and validation from guys. So don't do that, guys. I know I keep saying that. I know I'm a fucking broken record on that, but I got to keep hammering it into you guys because so many guys will just do it. It's been so ingrained with guys in this world now. They just keep validating and validating and validating. It doesn't work. Don't do it. It makes things worse. The researchers just constructed a synthetic husband that they believe single women are seeking. They don't actually ask any single women for their views, but if the researchers are right about what single women want in a husband, it seems clear that many of them are bound to be disappointed. Oh, poor them, because we're so bad. How will this play out? The researchers take a straightforward view. This study reveals large deficits in the supply of potential male spouses. One implication is that the unmarried may remain unmarried or marry less well-suited partners. Honestly, neither of those outcomes seemed all that bad to me. In the 1950s, marriage was not only a matter of romance, it was a matter of economics. Most of the time it is economics up until the last few decades, I'd say. A lot of parts of the world, it is pure economics, it's survival. Because incomes back then were higher in relation to living expenses, more couples could afford to have one spouse, usually the mother as a full-time parent, At the same time, career opportunities for most women were more limited than they are now. I don't mean to suggest that raising children as a single parent is as easy as sharing parenting with a partner, or that women today earn as much as men do. Bullshit. In fact, excuse me, guys. In fact, research suggests that it will be 51 years until we reach gender pay parity in the United States. What a load of crap. That is complete nonsense. If it was that was accurate, then you wouldn't have so many women making such high amounts of money in these high jobs, which they've worked hard for and they've earned, so I'll give them credit, and saying there are no men. Okay, that completely kills that argument. Still, today's women have more choices for their careers, and for co-parenting than women in the 1950s did. This may mean that staying unmarried isn't such a bad thing after all. Well, it isn't a bad thing, but so many women, again, back to status. Women don't just want a guy that has status, they want status too. The education, the status in their job, the money they make. Women are super competitive, guys. I'm sure many of you guys are aware of this. And for you younger guys that don't know this, guess what? They are. But also there's the status of being a missus, at least once, being the bride, getting that one guy, because any okay-looking woman can get a guy to sleep with her. That's not hard, okay? But to actually get a guy that actually wants to put a ring on her finger and marry her, that says something else. And every woman doesn't want to be seen as just that chick that is obviously dating and hooking up with a lot of dudes, but no dude wants to settle down with, okay? Women want to be that bride usually at least once, okay? And if it doesn't work out, they can always say they were the bride one time. So, but a lot of them, but I know, believe me, guys, like I said, I'm 42, I'm going to be 43 in a few months. I know tons and tons of single women in their 30s and 40s that either haven't been married yet or are divorced, and they're frustrated as hell, crying and whining and complaining that A, there are no good guys, and B, the guys they can get don't want to marry them, or at least they don't see them as marriage material. So this is not bullshit. This is really accurate. And I'm sure plenty of you guys that have a lot of friends and have acquaintances and know a lot of different women. You see the same thing where you live, wherever you are, say in the United States or around the world. And it's pretty amusing for me when I see it, because I just sit back and I hear them talk and the complaints and it's just like, this is dead on. But this is what they get. And guys are waking up because they're like, I'm not going to get married. Why would I put myself in a situation where I can have half my shit or more taken away from me, or be in this miserable relationship when I can be free as a bird to do what I want, when I want, have a great life. That's that. And keep my goddamn money. And if you want to, date and hook up with as many women as you want. Just be careful, though. But it's a different ball game with women. The old joke about men age like fine wine. We do, as long as we take care of ourselves and have our shit together. So we got it made. Our prime is our 30s and 40s, in some cases 50s, now that we're taking care of ourselves. Goes on. Is a husband who earns less really unsuitable? And then there's the question of who is or isn't acceptable husband material. This feels personal to me, because my husband of 19 years is definitely what these researchers would call a less than well-suited partner. He has less formal education than I do. Although he certainly is well-read and is smart, I've nearly always earned more than he does. Yet ours is one of the happiest marriages I know, and we aren't unique. We've encountered a lot of other happy marriages and partnerships where the woman earns more than the man. Guys, I'm not saying there aren't happy marriages out there, but in this day and age, they're few and far between. And there are situations where women will make more than the guy, and everything's cool. But those are also marriages, guys, that have been going on for a while. She said here, 19 years, okay? That's a long time ago. But people get married nowadays. I've done countless articles and read stories, personal stories from guys that have written me. They decided they got convinced to become Mr. Mom. And the wife brought home all the money, took care of all the bills, and it wasn't long that she started perceiving him as weak, as being in the feminine role, and her respect for him was lost, and she started treating him like shit, and eventually cheating on him, right? Or in cases where the woman made more than the guy, and her whole attitude towards him changed because she was now higher up than him. She was the high status, and women want a guy that's higher status than them. So situations like this Can happen, but it's rare, especially now with this generation, okay? Women in their 20s and 30s. And then, of course, they're going to bitch and complain when they get to their 30s and 40s. There's no good men out there, and blame us instead of saying, maybe you were too picky. Maybe you guys were acting like assholes. This is what you get. When we first got together, a well-meaning friend of mine tried hard to talk me out of the relationship precisely because of his limited economic prospects. Surprise. At the time, she was seemingly happily married to a man who earned more than she did. A few years later, that marriage imploded in a divorce. I don't claim to have all the answers about what makes a good marriage, but it does seem to me that basing a relationship, even partly on economic expectations, can be a bad idea because things change. Industries shift, companies fail, and someone with a higher paying job could decide one day that he doesn't want to do that job anymore. That actually happened to the wife of a lawyer I know. I'm not surprised. In any case, as these statistics clearly show, if you're a woman holding out for a husband who matches your education level and earns a lot more than you do, you can wind up staying single forever. Is that a better choice than broadening your idea of what an acceptable husband is? Only you can decide. So there you go, guys. Like I said, status is everything. Now, some women can look past that bullshit, okay, but they're honestly more traditional, more old school. But in this day and age, thanks to, again, validation for men, the feminist movement, advertising, marketing, that women are worth it and can have anything and everything and all that, this is what you get in this day and age. But there's plenty of great guys out there, and it doesn't make a difference if they don't have PhDs or doctorates. You know, they're good guys. But guys obviously that don't have those high degrees, they're looked over. They're passed over, and so it's absurd. But at the end of the day, women are emotional. They're not logical. At the end of the day, they will choose the guy that has higher status, higher education, but has shitloads of debt versus a guy that has no debt and has a very good, solid, needed job that's blue collar, you know. But at the end of the day, you're going to have more of what I've been telling you about what I see now. Women in the 30s, 40s, and 50s, primarily 40s. That's the big number. Sitting around complaining there's no available men, and boo-hoo, woe is me, and it's their own damn fault. So, but those of us that are single, we can sit back and enjoy the show. All right, guys, that is it for today. Be sure to comment down below. Let me know what you think about this. And be sure to like the video, share with your friends, and subscribe. And I'll catch you next time.